So this is really cool. Algonquin Outfitters is turning 60 years old this year, and to help them celebrate, I thought it'd be really neat for me to drive around the park and go to all the main access points. Oxtongue, Opeongo. Oh, there's a breeze. Oh, that's fantastic. The whole crew is like, it's not hot anymore. We got Oxtongue, we got Lake of Two Rivers, we got Opeongo, we got Brent, and we got Huntsville. And I'm going to talk to some of the main employees that have been here for a long time, and maybe not so long of a time. We're recording?
Yep.
Oh, I shouldn't be talking then.
Favorite lure to go in the time capsule? I would have to kill you if I showed you.
My dad used to tell the story. It's 10% of the fishermen that catch 90% of the fish.
Oh, no, that wasn't the share. And I'm going to ask them some good questions about, hey, this is 60 years of a company, and has things changed? Have things not changed? What's it like working for a happy family? And why they love this park so much? Because they do. Yeah?
Gold, nothing to say.
Gold.
I got nothing. Thank you for being a friend.
Just turned it off and stopped it for 10
I said
seconds.
some really terrible things. Oh, we're not going to use that. Gord, who are you?
Who am I? I'm Gord Baker. I've worked here at Algonquin Outfitters for many years and been enjoying it all that time.
So have you always been at the Oxtongue?
Oxtongue is my place.
Yeah?
Yes.
Never wanted to...
No. Why would I want to?
All right.
Oxtongue is the heart and soul of Algonquin Outfitters, and it's the heart and soul of one of the heart and souls of the canoe tripping part of Algonquin Outfitters, and that's where I fit in.
And how many years?
Well, I started in 1992, so you do the math.
1992.
Yeah.
That's a long time. I have this feeling that Algonquin Outfitters, their number one thing throughout all the years, 60 years, has always been to get the customer out there and enjoy and connect to the business. Have they changed through the years? Have the clients changed in any way?
It's exciting because new people are getting into outdoor activities, canoeing, hiking, whatever, but also a bit scary because people are just heading out there with no clue sometimes. And you hear reports or see things happen and you just kind of go, woo.
But it still happens. It still happens.
Still happens.
Yeah. And do you still have a smile on your face when you see them come back from a trip?
Oh yeah, that's one of the best things is to talk to people after they come back. And just the other day, good example, we had a couple go on a short 2-day, 1-night guided trip. And when they got here, the woman was very chatty, like probably nervous, and just talk. And even the guy that went with them, who's also kind of a chatty guy, he told me later, like, I didn't even get to tell all my jokes because she was talking a lot. But when she came back, she said she had a fantastic experience. It was the calmest she'd ever been in her life, more recently anyway. And they had a fantastic time, and they'd come back. And we were all a little nervous when they went out because she seemed a little, kind of a little bit high-strung. And we're, ooh, you gonna be okay? Yeah. And so even one night in the woods, that'll do it to people.
To me, Algonquin Outfitters, the staff has always been like a family, like a big family, right? And I think that's always been that way. Do you all get together and talk about those great moments when those people come back and you all smile because you made a difference?
Well, we don't have meetings. Yeah, I mean, we talk about it. I mean, I wouldn't know that story I just told you if somebody else hadn't come and told me. So, because, we're not always right there at every moment, and we've all got our jobs to do. So, yeah, I mean, we talk a lot with each other and share those experiences, and those of us who have been around for a while share old stories with people about old so-and-so that came, or here's this customer that's been coming for 30 years, you know, and the 20-year-old at the front counter probably doesn't know that person from whoever. So it's important to make that connection. Oh, this is Ross. He was a customer in 1962. Well, Ross would tell you that, but you know, and those things are important because those people have a connection too.
So Gord, Algonquin Outfitters, 60 years, fond memories of customers. What's so special about the park though, Algonquin? Why are people coming here?
Well, one thing, it's close, but that, I mean, that's not a super special thing. But the things that give people those transformative experiences of camping, whether it's the solitude, the view over the lake, sitting around the campfire, hearing the call of the loon or a wolf, or, you know, the beautiful sunset. There are lots of places that you can have that same experience. There's the special fabric of Algonquin Park, I think, is unique because of the combination of accessibility, the variety of experiences you can have from, you know, the day use experience, drive-in campground, backcountry, easy to get to backcountry, remote backcountry. It's all there. It's one big package that people can get at.
If we put a time capsule in the earth right here, and we're going to open it up when you guys are 100 years, I won't be around.
Me neither.
I don't think you'll be. But anyway, one of the young staff would be here. What would you put in there to represent your time here at Algonquin Outfitters?
Well, that's a tough one. I thought about this question, and one odd thing that popped into my head was a map of the park.
An old map or a new map?
That's the current one.
Ones with mosquitoes squashed on it?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, folded up, crinkled, a couple of routes marked on it. You know, something like someone's memento. That would be good. I'd like to do that.
And what route would you highlight on that map before you buried it?
Ooh. I think one of my favorite canoe routes in Algonquin Park is probably one of the classics, the good old Big Trout Loop. You know, at a Canoe Lake, Otter Slide, Burn Island, not in that order. Big Trout, McIntosh, that's a classic.
You work here a lot and very busy throughout the summer. Do you still have time to go out on a trip?
Not as much as I'd like, but living here, you know, you get to live in this nice place that everybody else wants to come to. So, you know, I can walk my dog in the morning and it's quiet. And yesterday I heard a wolf in my own backyard.
So people should be jealous about your lifestyle, basically what you're saying.
The fact that we get to live here and have all these fun, interesting people to interact with, whether they're fellow staff and customers. I mean, it's just, if you like people, this is the kind of job to have.
That's awesome. Where are we and what do you do here?
My name is Jerry Schmidt. I work for Algonquin Outfitters. We're in beautiful downtown Algonquin Park. And I guess my title would be the regional manager for Algonquin Outfitters.
And you're at Lake of Two Rivers now.
I look after Lake of Two Rivers exclusively, yes.
Okay, you were at Opeongo, that's where I knew you from.
Yes.
And you switched, but how long have you been at Algonquin Outfitters?
I started in 1981,
Hey, what?
I believe it or not.
1981?
Yeah. My beginning days were as a customer. I started my first year, I was on strike with the company that I was working for in Toronto. I was a crane operator and I was on strike. And I did my time on the weekends on the picket line, and then I came up and went camping. I met Bill Swift, Senior. Bill used me as a guinea pig for the first couple of years. He would send me to places that he'd never been, that he knew nothing about. And I caught on after a half a dozen trips or so. He would say, well, what do you think about trying this trip? And he'd point to somewhere on the map, and I, very naive, I would go, sure, let's go. So I would grab at that point, they gave me a brand new solo canoe, bench shaft paddle, which was fairly new in the business, and said, off I go. Took off and did a few canoe trips the first year. Second year, same thing. we were laid off, and Swifty said, "How'd you like the job?" And I took the job and never looked back.
Oh, Algonquin deer fly.
Big fly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that part. That's fantastic. And then, what were some of the monumental things that happened since that time? And in fact, I know of quite a few that's happened to you that I can go off on tangent about. But
Wow.
forest fire in Opeongo, you put it out.
Yeah, we weren't supposed to be doing that.
Okay,
at the
never mind.
Time, but, it's not really condoned, but yeah, we fought fires periodically. Before we were told not to do it, we would. I mean, if you're there, if you're an invested employee of Algonquin Outfitters and a park lover, you can't sit by and watch something burn. Or yeah.
Well, really, you're actually, it's more of an exciting story than you're laying on here. It's like, basically, if you didn't get there in time, it would have burned by the time they arrived. So you went and took charge of it and put the fire out. You were responsible for that incident on Bates Island.
Well, I wasn't responsible for the incident, thank goodness. No, that was one of the first years at Opeongo, and yeah, someone was attacked by a bear. We know a lot more about it now, so we understand more about what happened, but Chris Sulhaney and I were the first couple of people to be on the scene and then assist the park. Oh, the stories go on and on. If you're willing to, there's lots of opportunity to help people and do things, and that's what my job was at Algonquin Outfitters there for years.
Yeah, you really have. And what were some of the best moments with customers along the way?
Lots of opportunities to help people find what they want to do in the park. So this happened many years ago, many times. People would come in and ask things like, okay, we've got a week in Algonquin Park, what do you think we should do? So if you sit down and take the time with the customer, and I feel that's what's kind of missing these days, is the customers don't want to spend the time to just relax and explore, but in the early days, people would sit down and say, I've got 5 days, what do you think we should do? And I would give them my opinion. I would ask them how long they wanted to travel, what they wanted to do. We take a look at the canoe route map, and then I would map out for them an itinerary that would give them what they were looking to do. They would go out, they would discover, they would create their own adventures with a little bit of help. They would come back going, just ranting about how beautiful a campsite was or their experiences, and they discovered so many new things, and to see their faces and the wide-eyed look, and it's extremely rewarding to be able to help people do that.
Now, and so you're saying that's still going on, but they're not going out as long?
The trips are shorter. They tend to be a little bit shorter. There are still people that go out and do 7-day trips. There's just far less of them. People nowadays seem to want to have an itinerary, and we've talked about this before, where in my opinion, it spoils it to know where you're going to be at what time and exactly what the campsite has for you. I believe in going out, and the word adventure comes to mind. You can't have an adventure having an itinerary that tells you everything that's going to happen. You want to discover these things. You want a little bit of help, so you're not totally off in the woods, so to say, but you want to discover these things. You don't want to know how difficult that portage is. You want to discover it and talk about it. And that builds better memories, in my opinion.
That's fantastic. You're an angler. You love trout fishing. You won't tell me where they are in the park, which makes you a true angler.
Absolutely. Sworn angler.
But what's one of your favorite spring trips in the park?
I guess it depends on what you're doing. If you're fishing, I can't tell you where to go, but there are so many places. I mean, Algonquin Park has 270 some or almost 300 brook trout lakes. So many people go over lakes that have brook trout in them and just don't angle. So my advice would be take some good tackle, some nice lures, and we can recommend lures. I think I've given you a couple over the years, and or suggestions, and then go out and do it. You'll find them on almost every lake you're in. So you can't go wrong.
That sounds good. Forget the interview. Let's just go fishing.
Yeah, let's go. Spend the rest of the day out fishing.
Yes,
I'm in.
good.
I'm in.
All right. So I have this sense that one of your main goals as a family, as Algonquin Outfitters, is to make sure that they're happy and they go out in the park and they want to protect it even more after their trip. Is that something that do you have meetings and talk about this, or is it just something you all do?
I'm not sure it's just restricted to Algonquin Outfitters employees too. The people that lots of people that you meet on the trail or out camping would do the same thing. If you were asking someone advice about the next day, your trip the next day, I don't know anybody out there that would be malicious or give you incorrect information. So is it the clientele that's attracted to Algonquin Park, or is it Algonquin Park kind of helps people along to bring that out of them? I'm not sure what comes first, the chicken or the egg. I think all Algonquin Outfitters employees that I know share that love of sharing and helping out. The best part about it is to have someone come back and tell you how things went well. You can give advice all day long, but to have them come back reaffirms that you're doing the right thing, and people appreciate it. And knowledge is something that Algonquin Outfitters has held dear to them. The knowledge we've always shared, talked about canoe routes, talked about water levels, difficulty. That you can't get that from Ontario Parks or a lot of other sources. The years of canoeing and canoe tripping, the complete outfitting items that we send on trips and things, we're constantly tweaking because things change and people are always, I mean, obviously people have different opinions, but that sharing of knowledge it's irreplaceable. You don't find that anywhere else.
Now, the other cool thing I've known about you for years, well, first of all, you're an amazing photographer, wildlife photographer.
Thank you.
If you go to Lake of Two Rivers, just look up on the wall, you've got all your, well, not all your shots, but your great shots up there. But you were just telling me before the interview and how special that is that you're working and living in a place that can happen.
Oh, yeah, I'm speechless. I could talk for hours and hours. I really feel blessed, and I think a lot of people share their excitement of being able to see animals, experience places. Algonquin Park doesn't have they don't have a Grand Canyon, although they do have the Barron Canyon. They don't have Niagara Falls, although they have other waterfalls. I don't know what it is. It doesn't have these incredible seventh wonders of the world, but as a whole, it draws so many people for so many reasons, and it obviously gives them what they're after, or satisfies their desire for, and I use the word adventure a lot. It's our company's, when it's in our company slogan, all sorts. It's a big part of it, that people can go out and do that.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So 60 years old, Algonquin Outfitters, 60 years old, and let's say we're doing a time capsule today, and we're going to bury some stuff, and they're not going to open this up until another 40 years for the 100th. Okay? Now you might be around, I might, but not be, but but
I might not be.
What would you put in there?
Oh my. Algonquin Outfitters. Okay, so I would stick a list of the first 60 years of the names of the employees in that capsule, because a lot of them will be forgotten, and we don't have, I mean, other than probably payroll has a record, we don't have. I remember a lot of people from the 70s and 80s. I've heard about people that worked in the 60s. Some of them come by and visit, and they're great. It's incredible to talk to somebody from 30 or 40 years ago. But there isn't, I don't think there's a collection of names and maybe contributions or what their jobs were, where they worked. There's got to be thousands by now, hundreds for sure.
That's fantastic.
I've had hundreds at Opeongo alone.
Yeah, there has
the
been a
years.
lot of people actually. Now,
Yeah,
if you were able to put two things, what would be your favorite lure to put in that time capsule?
My favorite lure to go in the time capsule, I would have to kill you if I showed you.
We're rolling. The wind is coming off the lake, Lake Opeongo. How's my hair?
I'm good. We're rolling.
Can you see the mic over my head?
No.
No? Okay.
Audio's rolling.
Yeah?
We're rolling.
Well, who are you? Where are we? And what do you do here?
We are at Lake Opeongo. My name is Austin, and I run the Opeongo store.
And you've been doing this for 6 years?
I've been running it for 6, worked here for 8, and worked for a competitor for 2 years prior to coming here.
Great, great,
10
great.
years,
And I think you like riding the boat, because last time I was here, you jumped the chance to just drive that boat. Do you think maybe when you're 80, you'll feel the same? Because you're jostling around a lot out there.
If the bones can take it, then maybe. But yeah, I think that's one of my first interests. That is the first interest I had in working here, and I still love doing it even today. So.
Now, if I was a complete stranger that knew nothing about canoeing, camping, or Algonquin Park, whatever, and you had to tell me what you did for a living, what would you say?
I usually keep it simple and tell people we work in the outfitting business. A lot of people don't necessarily understand what that means, so you have to kind of get into specifics with them. But I don't know. I think just explaining outfitting is really the only thing that I would do.
And how would you define outfitting? Is it to take care of a customer and make sure they come back happy?
I think it would be, yeah, that to an extent for sure, getting them the equipment that they need, offering a service for them. We definitely cover everything here, from transportation to giving you any equipment that you need.
So this is definitely not a 9-to-5 job.
No.
And you don't do the same thing every day.
No, certainly not. This store in particular, we have a lot of different aspects to it. We have canoe delivery, we have campground delivery, we have water taxi, we have a retail store where we have souvenirs as well as camping. There's a lot of different parts to this business here, and it definitely keeps things interesting over time.
And each access point seems to be different too. I mean, I talked to Gord, and he says Oxtongue's the best because it's the first. Jake will say something different about Cedar Lake. It goes on and on. Nate will say that Huntsville is the better place. Why is Opeongo the best place?
Well, it's right in the heart of the park, and it's definitely the largest access point. I mean, we have so many opportunities for routes here. You can't really compete with that, and the versatility of coming here. You have lots of camping just on this lake itself. You could camp, in a different spot every night for many nights here if you wanted to, or if you want to do a portaging trip. I think here, just the lake itself is incredible, and the routes off it are incredible, and I don't think it's kind of difficult to compete with that.
And would they be different customers here that compared like the Two Rivers, for example?
Absolutely, yeah. We certainly have a heavier backcountry group coming out here. The customers are certainly more backcountry oriented. With our expansion the last few years, we have started to cater more to the campground sort of realm and the customers that come with that. So at the store here, backcountry for sure. We have people visiting from the campgrounds throughout the day, and then now we're going to them with our campground delivery.
Now, have other staff that have been here longer, have they finally stopped calling you the new guy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for the most part.
How has Opeongo changed since the first day you started here?
It's changed in the customers that we've had coming up. We've certainly seen a change in direction. We have a lot less of the old-time fishermen coming up, and we have a lot more new people coming, which has been certainly a new thing for us. So yeah, I mean, I think in terms of customers, there's been a huge shift in the type of people we have coming here. In terms of what we do as a business too, it's changed. People have different expectations now. I mean, when I first started here, it was water taxi, we had the store, we did canoe rentals, but we're at a point where we're making it easier for other people now. So it's a lot more, people want things done for them as easy as possible. So instead of coming to the store and getting something, they want it brought to them. So certainly have changed our direction in business quite a lot over the last 6 years.
Well, that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Now, they all still love Algonquin.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you love Algonquin? I mean, you could work anywhere, right?
For me, I grew up sort of in the area. I had a family friend who runs an outfitting company, which happens to be one of our competitors. So I sort of grew up around the business and the park, and it's just kind of been a part of me forever, coming here as a kid with my family, by myself, or to the point where when I was 16, got a job here. But it really is sort of a part of me, just growing up and being here. So it's kind of like home to me. It's hard to specify anything else other than that. Yeah,
it's a familiar place, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So if we did a time capsule, so we buried something in the ground, and this is the 60th anniversary for Algonquin Outfitters, and then 40 years later, someone dug it up. And what would you put in that?
I would probably put one of my fishing lures in it, I think.
See, nobody will tell me what these fishing lures are, though. I need the information.
I don't know. That's the only thing I can think of. I would probably take one of mine right now that I have and put it in there.
And
I used one, not a brand new.
oh, a used one.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that means you've caught a fish then.
Yeah.
Okay. And you probably will not tell me what that lure is.
I could tell you. It would be a Williams wobbler.
Yeah?
Yeah.
See, Jerry wouldn't tell us. That's interesting. So the past person who worked here would never tell us, and then the new guy.
Well, I want to spread it out, so.
Do you get a little bit envious or jealous, whatever, when customers come back and just tell you about the incredible trip they had while you were just hauling boats all day?
I don't know. Honestly, I love this so much. I love doing everything that we do here. I still love driving taxi and flipping canoes all day long. I'll do it nonstop. I don't honestly get jealous at all. I love people coming back, and when we have happy customers come back at the end of a trip, but I don't envy it at all. I like being here, so.
That's fantastic. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot.
Absolutely.
All
Thank
right.
you.
And you're going to go out and.
Yeah. Good way to describe it.
Yeah, really? We might have to edit that out.
You might have to cut that one.
I'm not taking it out.
Okay, I'm here. I'm at Brent. Quick drive in. Really a quick drive. The road was fine.
That is an out-and-out story.
Well, I think the very first time I met you was like way back in the early 90s, and you said, I want that road rough so we just don't get the riffraff here.
I think I was quoted saying, good roads bring bad people.
All right, so who are you? Where are we? And what do you do here?
We're in downtown Brent in the business section, and I'm Jake, the manager and everything of this store, and with the Algonquin Outfitters.
Now, have you been here since 1981? But you were here before that, right?
I've been around Brent off and on since 1942, really.
Oh my lord, okay.
My dad worked at the buildings over here.
Oh, okay.
So that was my start over here off the railroad because there was no roads. And I've been guiding all through this country since I was old enough to guide, 13.
So you guided for Algonquin Outfitters before you started running the show?
Yeah.
Okay.
I guided, I think in the mid-60s I was one of the first guides for Algonquin Outfitters with Bill Swift and Dave Whalen.
Yeah.
And started guiding then. And then I picked up odd trips with them, and then I started guiding on my own at a little bit more money than Outfitters were paying. And so I knew the country, and that's what Bill Swift liked. Bill Swift did not like to tell the customers, I don't know, or tell them a story. And so when this place opened, he wanted somebody up here that knew the country, knew the lakes, knew the rivers, and that was my category. And we sort of said, I'll supply the money if you supply the knowledge. So we have made a good team.
And why was this place in particular used, like Cedar Lake Assets? Because it was the rail town at one time.
Oh, and rail town and lumber town.
Yeah.
The whole west end was all lumber, and this was all railroad. There was a big roundhouse over here, and watering service and everything. Coal, big coal chute, and it was and all the trains from Ottawa to Cape Rail met in the middle here and traded crews and went home. So this was definitely a big railroad town.
And is it still a busy place for people to go off on a canoe trip?
Oh, very busy, yeah.
Yeah.
And getting busier. And with the road being better, there's more access.
The road's better?
Yeah, better.
Well, when Bill Swift senior,
yeah.
senior, you and him came here, and like you already knew this place, but was it that one thing where it's like you were probably the only one that would actually want to work out of here?
Probably.
Yeah.
Because none of the young people wanted to work up here because of the isolation, and no weekend parties because no big crowd and everything. And if you look at the outfitters down there at Oxtongue now, they say great, there's 20 young people and they can get together. Up here you got to either know how to fish or read. That's about it. So, in those days we had no television and old single line radio, telephone, and so there was really nothing for young people to do.
Do you think that the customers have changed over the years from today till like when you started?
Yeah, it's changed about like a wave. We had young people, then no young people, all older, And right now we're getting back into young people again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm glad to see the change.
Yeah.
What I don't see, and I started to see this summer, is of the thousands of kids that go through the summer camps here, none returned. And this summer I'm starting to see some Army guys and some Pathfinder guys, so there is a little return, and that didn't happen for years. So
Why do you think that happened?
I just think some of the programs they have at those summer camps is not I know some of the, when I used to guide a lot, picking young kids up with a 100-pound pack and their turned turtle and all this, they're not going to come back into this world. And so now I think that's changed. Like Pathfinder has a good program, Northway has a good program.
Would you say this part of the park is more rugged than the south end?
Oh yeah, definitely. And you can go a week up here and see nobody, which for amateurs is scary. I think we're all alone out here. Whereas down at Canoe Lake in that area, you're never alone. It's so far from, and of course here too, we're all rugged. The portages are steeper. We're in a valley. The portages are longer. Nobody on them. So I think it's definitely more rugged, which is the type of people we get here that wanted rugged, which is good.
Yeah.
I like those type of people. So.
If you think about it, has gear and everything else changed from? Obviously, it has.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Has that made it too easy, or?
It certainly made it easier. Like back in the 50s and 60s, a sleeping bag took up half your pack sack, and now it's a little ball. The pack sacks themselves back in the 50s and 60s were all canvas and heavy, and not waterproof. They all leaked, and now that's all changed. The food definitely is different. We could take cans back in those days, and cans are heavy. Now it's all freeze-dried, which I could go 30 days up north with fishing tackle, sleeping bag, tent, everything in one pack sack. And in the old days, I couldn't do that. It's double trips.
So in one sense, that's a good thing.
Oh yeah, definitely a good
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And more people, a little older and stuff, can and still enjoy the same things they used to.
Yeah.
Easier. With our canoes back then, I carried one canoe up here I had a hernia at the time, and I was blaming my hernia operation. I wasn't supposed to pick up anything for 6 months, and this was 3 weeks after I had the operation. Had a trip up here, and we weighed my canoe on the train here, and it was 120 pounds.
Oh my Lord!
And I was blaming my hernia for dragging. But in the other 3 canoes, we picked them all out at the same time. 4 brand new canoes. They weighed in their 70s, and mine weighed 120.
Oh my Lord!
Same canoe. But we looked at the ribs. The ribs were all different. And,
Yeah.
but nowadays, a 40-pound canoe, people say, well, it's still a little heavy, but it's not. It's different.
Do you get stuck doing that with the young staff that just arrived? You saying, well, in the old days, this is what we did back in the day,
Yeah.
and they might do the eye roll and say, well, you're on our date right now.
Yeah, well, I still have one young guy works for me here, and he's been doing all right. I've been working with picking a canoe up with him and stuff. And he said, "How did you do with the heavier canoes?" And, we just grew up with them, and I guess we didn't think anything about them. But
Yeah.
we had no comparison.
Yeah.
And then when fiberglass came out, they were heavier than our cedar strip canoes. So, but now with Kevlar, I can still put them on the top rack here. So
Even with the hernia.
yeah.
Well, now you're a young man, so you're not looking into retirement whatsoever. But let's say you are.
Yeah.
Let's say you're like, I've had enough with this town and the road. I don't think you would ever say that. But then you had Algonquin Outfitters had to bring someone else in.
Yeah.
What would be the first thing you would tell them?
Don't do it.
Okay, let's just say that they actually did want to do it.
Okay.
What would be that one bit of advice just before you pass the baton?
Well, you really, I'd advise them that you have to be a diesel mechanic, you have to be an outdoor motor mechanic, you have to be an electrician, you have to be a gas technician, and all those things the young people don't learn anymore because our school systems don't teach practicality. They teach brain work and not physical work. And so to be prepared for this place, you really have to be prepared.
Yeah.
And I would advise most young people to go back to school and learn the technical things and carpenters and fixing and jacking up buildings. And, it's a tough job up here.
Yeah, and it takes time to learn all that too.
Oh yeah, you just don't do it overnight. Yeah.
I was asking everybody else in Algonquin Outfitters, let's say we're going to do a time capsule, you know, and just bury it right here in front of the store, and for the 60th. This is the 60th of Algonquin Outfitters, and then someone's going to dig it up, probably yourself, 40 years later, and for the 100th. What would you put in that?
I saw that question and I thought, that's a difficult one.
No pressure, but
I
we had
know.
some good answers from the other people. Yeah.
Good luck. I don't know what I'd put in it, because what I try to focus on the past rather than on the future. And so like well, you look in the store and see all the historical stuff, and I kind of, my mind focuses on what was good and what we did, rather than what is changing, which I don't all agree with. Like everybody now in the bush here carries spots, and they push it when they haven't get tired. That one guy got tired and pushes the spot and gets rescued. That type of technology, I hate to think, like I've seen that much happen. What's going to happen in another 40 years? Is it going to get worse? Everybody's running around and they're going to put bell towers all through the park, and everybody's going to be talking to everybody and playing their little games. I just hate to think that way, because that will totally ruin what Algonquin started as, and I would hope to continue as, but I can't see it doing that. So I don't know what I'd put in that capsule. Like, oh my God, what happened? You know, I don't know. So I would have trouble with that. What I would put in there.
I think that's a good answer, that you don't know what to put in.
No.
It is a tough question, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
Now Jerry was going to put a fishing lure in, but Jerry would not tell anybody what the fishing lure was. Austin actually was going to put a fishing lure in, and he told us what it was.
Yeah.
That was different. And I know that you would never tell me what fishing lure you would use. I also remembered stories of you telling me that you used to wade down the Nipissing River and feel where the cold water came in, so you know where the trout were hanging out in the summer. And yeah, so you know the park really well.
Yeah, I pretty well know it. Yeah, and I did swim the whole Nipissing River to find the holes, and I can't describe them to you because they all look the same, but I know where they are.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
If you were to do the ultimate canoe trip, you know, I know this is a silly question. I'm still going to ask it because I think people will want to know the answer. What would be the one trip you would want to do in the park?
I just love from here to Catfish to Whiskey Jack and back down to Nipissing.
Yeah?
You see the big river, you see the big lakes, you see the beautiful little lakes, Robinson and Whiskey Jack, and you see a little river, beautiful river. So you see, my dad and I, when he was 8, he did it in 2 days. And but it's a beautiful 5-day trip, and you see all sections of the park, and, which you can't do in the south. It's all no good rivers down there, really, all lakes. Madawaska's not a super river. But these are super rivers. That would be my ultimate trip that I would recommend people take to see Algonquin as it should be.
Yeah, yeah. It's a catch-22 though, isn't it, too? Because I see that too, where we're having a lot more people go in, and sometimes, not all, but what ruin it, and ethics are changing and stuff. But at the same time too, it's really good to see more people go in. I mean, I've spent a career trying to get people out in the woods so they can protect it, right?
Yeah,
but
that's a
yeah,
double-edged sword.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So basically, what you're saying is, don't change the road, make it rough.
Yeah, leave it rough. Yeah.
At the end of the day, what's the big thing that makes you smile about your job?
Oh, I get a lot of satisfaction of seeing people come back from out in the woods with a smile.
Yeah. Well, there is a story by, I'm not sure if you know about this. There's an angler, Mike Bolger. I don't know him well, but I do know his story. I interviewed him, and him and his son were, I think, around this part of the park, but they did really well for brook trout on some lake. And someone actually went and asked the park where he camped, and through Freedom of Information Act. so they can find out where they caught the fish. And it went to court, and he lost. He appealed it, and he lost again.
Yeah.
Do those things surprise you as well? Like that someone would do that?
No, the modern people, nothing they do surprises me. Like they don't want to do the work. They want somebody else to do the work and then go and capitalize on that. And that's another incident of they don't want to go and find the spots. You know, I fished the Nipissing River there for years trying to find a spot, find out how to swim it to find a good spot. Same with the Crow. I fished out for years finding the good spots. And these guys want to just, hey, where do I catch fish? Oh, go find out. They don't want to do the work and the exploration, and the people who have done it, no wonder we don't want to talk about it, because go find out yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't like that type of people that use other people. So.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's happening more and more today because of social media and how easy it is to find a spot and not do the work. Or
Facebook is the worst criminal we've got, because people go take pictures of everything. Oh, I caught fish here, and pictures of the fish, and then they put it on Facebook. Oh, I only sent it to my friends. Well, yeah, and their friends send it to them, and pretty soon the whole world knows the place in the Crow River where you catch fish, and I think that is bad. But we're not changing that technology, and the people that use it, we're not changing their minds. They're just doing it.
yeah,
And I think that's ruining things.
I find that with navigation, the young people I take out, they actually, because, and I'm not knocking GPSing and stuff like that, whatever, but they don't know how to look at a map and the landscape and actually see that landscape. And I have this great talent that I've been told I have, and I it's amazing. I can look at a picture of someone holding a fish on a lake in Algonquin, and I know where it is.
Yeah, me too, yeah.
From a hump on the rock or
Yeah.
whatever, and why people say, well, how can you do that? I go, because I've been to all those lakes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So here's a question for you. Can you name a lake in Algonquin that you have not been?
I've never been on Greenleaf.
Oh, okay.
And I've been in the trail without a canoe. I walked in the trail and I thought, I really have not had a canoe that far from water in a long time. So why would I carry a canoe over that long trail into Greenleaf? So I've looked at Greenleaf, but I would not recognize anything around it because I've never paddled it. So.
Yeah, yeah. I did that, and I questioned the same thing. There is times in Algonquin where you do question that. You're walking more than you're paddling at times.
Yeah, and this is what I don't like about GPSs. The modern trail makers use a GPS, and they don't walk the trail or anything. They use a GPS. I asked one day, as we come to a big pine tree this long, do you go right up and over it and down the other side, or do you actually walk around it? I don't know. GPSs work and do the job, but I think there should be some intelligence going into the use of it. I think that's missing.
So, do you still get excited when you see the blue of the lake at the tip of your canoe over your head?
I got so good I could smell it before I could see it, But yeah, it's exciting. I see water. And when my kids were littler, I'd send them ahead, and then I could hear them yell, "We see the lake! We see the lake!" That's especially along Port. It's just kind of nice to see that water.
Yeah, yeah. Do you find that the people that paddle Algonquin, like if you compare it to other parks, like Quetico, for example, the average portage is 300 meters.
Yeah.
The average portage here, I would say, is a kilometer.
Yeah, I think you're closer.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah. So why do people come here in droves, if that's the case? If they're portaging a lot compared to other places like Quetico?
Well, Quetico, for the population density, is way too far away. It's a 3-day drive to do a 3-day canoe trip and then 3 days back.
Yeah.
Makes it not accessible. And plus, I don't find the lakes up there really attractive.
Yeah.
They're big and ugly. And so I can see the Montreal and Toronto density coming here because it's closeness and the variety. Like, I don't want to spend 6 hours in a canoe to do 5 minutes portage. And here you're pretty well equal, 2 hours portage, 2 hours canoe, 2 hours portage.
So it breaks it up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, and I'm starting to appreciate that more now, because if I kneel down for 2 hours, I have a little more trouble getting up again. So the breakup of it is, I think, is more enjoyable than out west.
Yeah.
You know, I like canoeing also on Goma. Goma is a beautiful country to canoe
Yeah,
in.
it's my favorite actually.
It's beautiful lakes, beautiful stuff. And I've been to almost every lake in Algoma too. So
Is that because you're familiar with that? I mean, I love Algoma because that's the first time I paddled a canoe with my father, and trout, pine, blue lakes, and that's similar to Algonquin. Is it just a landscape? I mean, I was asked the other day why I didn't paddle up in James Bay a lot. And I said, well, I have no money and I
it's
like
ugly.
trees. Yeah.
that's why.
I think I offended that person by saying that, but the thing is, that's not my landscape that I like.
No, it's ugly.
Yeah. So what I've been interviewing all the people around Algonquin that manage the access points, including you, people that have just started, you that have been around for a while, and they all sort of have the same answer about what excites them about their job. That people go out, they appreciate the park, they want to protect the park, and they come back a different person because of the park. And is that something you guys decided at a business meeting that's your idea? I mean, Bill Swift Sr., that was his main objective. He told his son, Rich, that now tells his son.
Well, I think it's the influence of old Bill, that was his idea, that anybody going through Algonquin Outfitters and coming to Algonquin Park has an enjoyable experience and a memorable time. And we had that in mind all the time. We thought our objective is to make sure everybody visiting the park, and whether they're renting from us or not, we want to make sure that everybody enjoys the park and has a good experience. And so we use our knowledge best we can to make sure that happens. And I think that's, if we had a meeting on it, I didn't get invited, but I don't know.
Thanks, Jake. It was great visiting you again. It's always a
I'm
pleasure.
glad you got up here again.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
nice to have you back, and thanks to all you guys for coming.
I'd visit you more if you could fix the road, for heaven's sakes.
No, brings bad people.
We are? We're rolling? We're rolling. Hey, we're rolling.
Here we go.
These are very nice cozy chairs, but if you
They are
move like
quite
this,
nice.
it sounds like you're tuning.
I'll try not to.
Okay? Oh, no, that wasn't the chair. I've been doing a whirlwind tour
heard.
around the park,
Mhm.
and no pressure, but the others were really good.
Oh boy.
Who are you? Where are we? And what do you do?
My name's Nate Smith. We're here in downtown Huntsville, and I'm the store manager at the Algonquin Outfitters location a few hundred feet behind me.
And you're kind of a newbie.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah, because Jake, like 81, Jerry, like you really. In fact, you're the newbie, because Austin and Stephen been here longer, right?
Yeah.
Now, your store is a little different. You're downtown Huntsville, so your clientele might be different than Jake's, for example.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And so, do you still see that smile when they come back?
Yeah, of course. I mean, what's cool about this location is we service a lot of people that are going to access 1, 2, and 3. So they're still going into more remote, somewhat more remote places in the park away from the Highway 60 corridor. And so we are often the last kind of point of contact before they get in there. And the first one when they come back. And so, yeah, of course, there's always smiles and stories to tell and things they've seen. And yeah, it's great. And then the other whole part of the rental services we provide is to, people that are just right here on these local lakes. And it could be that they just, they want a couple kayaks for their week at the cottage, or maybe they want to try paddleboarding for the first time. Or we service, a lot of people coming up from the GTA for the weekend or for day trips that are maybe getting in a canoe in the river here for the very first time ever. So it's extremely kind of varied. But yeah, the bottom line is, A, we want people to come back. And B, we want them to come back happy and wanting to go out again, right? So there's a learning component to that, right? Where if you get the customer onto the water with the right kind of knowledge and gear, then they're going to have a better time, and they're more apt to want to do it again, or maybe take things a little further. 1 night was good or 2 nights was good. We were really comfortable with what you gave us and the information you gave us, and so next time it's going to be 3-4 nights we can do this, right?
And you're really linked to the community. You do a lot of things here for the community.
Yeah. I would say Huntsville's a great town. It's a growing town, and we want to be a part of that responsibly. And yeah, being part of the community, with events we hold or contests we have, and other organizations that we're involved with in the community is a huge part of who we are as a store, for sure.
What's so special about Algonquin? I mean, really, it's just a park with a bunch of portages, isn't it?
Well, I think for me, I come from a background where I grew up camping and paddling with my parents, not too much in Algonquin. But then I go off to kids camp for the summer and do canoe tripping that way. And so after that, I kind of moved away for a while. So coming back into Algonquin Outfitters, it looks like Algonquin Park looks totally fresh and new to me at that point. And so when you start looking at the amount of routes and the size of the park and the route options, it's never ending what you can do once you really get into backcountry tripping in the park.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Because you also do Crown Land around here too.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I love Crown Land camping. That's kind of mostly what I'm into. And even just the waterways around here that are maybe less accessible to a motorized vessel, but are still really accessible to people that are into paddling.
Yeah.
There's gems like the North and South Muskoka River, the Big East River. I was out paddling the Big East River just a day ago with a friend of mine and his mom. His mom had lived in Huntsville for 50 years and she'd never paddled the Big East River.
Really?
So there's an example of someone very local that's just never had that experience.
Yeah.
And now that she's done it once, she was absolutely blown away. She's going to do it next year with her friends, and she couldn't believe she had never done it before.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. All right, now this last question has messed everybody up through the whole circuit around Algonquin. So just try to relax when I ask this. If we're going to do a time capsule, right? I think you're actually doing that in Huntsville, to be quite honest.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Let's say we're going to do this. So Algonquin Outfitters, 60 years old. We get the time capsule. We're not going to take it out until 40 years from now. So what are you going to put in that?
Oh man. I don't know, could put in like a staff t-shirt from one of the boatyard crew at the end of the summer.
At the end of the summer, okay.
Faded and tattered and all worn from the sun, and that'd raise some questions for sure.
That's good.
Or thinking of classic items from the store, could throw an Nalgene bottle in there with a bunch of burn rope.
That's good.
Yeah, maybe some stickers on it,
Yeah.
Or safety kit. Yeah, safety kit. There you go. You never know when you need to use a baler and some heaving line and a whistle.
Well, 40 years from now, we all might need the safety kit. The zombies are coming for sure. That's fantastic. Well, thanks a lot for the interview, and I really enjoyed myself doing the whole tour. I know all you guys, and it's so great to see. It's like a family, right? I mean, well, a lot of them are family in one sense, but it is a family. But you're all very unique and different in all throughout the access points. Like you all had, it's almost like you have your own turf.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's really neat once you begin to realize what each store actually does and the market they serve and what their strengths are, because we have at any given time usually about a dozen locations going throughout Muskoka, Algonquin Park, and Haliburton, but they each do different things under the same big Algonquin Outfitters family umbrella. So it really is incredible once you really dive into it and kind of see how the operation works on a day-to-day business, especially during the summer.
Yeah, and different customer base too. You look at the people going across Opeongo, Lake of Two Rivers, completely different. Brent, completely different, right? And I think you might in Huntsville might see a mixture of that because basically you're the central part of the town, and then everybody scatters from there, right? So, yeah, that must be refreshing too, because you see a variety of different people and different skill set.
Absolutely. Like the boatyard this morning, we were tying down canoes that are heading up to the Tim River, and then we're tying down kayaks that are heading to Lake of Bass.
Wow.
Totally different customers, but they're both out enjoying the water right now.
Well, that's great. And you probably got another 20 years before they stop calling you the new guy, but you'll have to live with that.
I'm okay with that.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Kevin, good to see you.
Great. Okay, it's a heat wave. Can we stop now? Cut!
I think we got to get one little sample sound just so we can clear it out of it, so we can filter it out. So can you move?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I think we got a good sample of that.
For real.
Yeah.
You recording?
We've been recording for the last.
Oh my God! Who are you?
Well, I am Richard Swift. I run a wonderful business called Algonquin Outfitters. It's our 60th year that we've
60.
been.
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. And you're
And I'm Tanner Swift.
so you're the better of the two.
Absolutely.
Better looking though, but I don't know.
Now this is incredible because so Rich, your dad introduced you to the business, and then you're just throwing it to him. Like
Yeah. Well, lucky kid, you know.
it is pretty special that you think about it. It goes through the family tree, right? And so, because I was just saying to you before, is my dad was a professional boxer. I didn't become a professional boxer. So was there a time when you're like, well, should I go into the business, or was it just no problem?
Well, I think the biggest thing with my dad here, and I've been so lucky and blessed, is I grew up and he's always instilled work ethic. And I've taken that through all my different travels in life and had it through hockey and now through business here. The biggest thing he said to me, he goes, I want you to be happy and use your work ethic throughout the company and sees where it takes you. So going day by day here, and really lucky and blessed to be able to work with this guy here. So
When did you start?
Boy, it's a cool story. So, first whole Outfitters, like my dad went to this summer camp in Algonquin Park called Camp Pathfinder.
Yeah.
Beautiful island in the middle heart of Algonquin. And he went back there during World War II because it was deemed a safe haven. And his father was involved in wartime things. And he fell in love with it. He ended up becoming director of tripping. And then the season, he used to go and work as a fish guide at the old Highland Inn on Cache Lake. And he met this real character, Dave Wayman at the time. And they really hit it off, these guys. And they said, well, why don't we start an outfitter in the middle of Algonquin Park? And they kind of dreamed of it. They kept in touch. And my dad worked as an engineer at Kodak for 7 years to save up enough money, and he started this place. And he just followed his passion, his dream. And about a year after he started the Outfitters, Camp Pathfinder came up for sale, and he ended up going in on it with a partner. So that's where I was brought up. The first 16 years of my life, I worked and lived at Camp Pathfinder as a kid, exploring every canoe route to the park. Going to bed at night, hearing the wolves howl, and the loons, those romantic moments out on the lake. And that taught me the love of Algonquin and the appreciation. And once I got, my dad sold the camp when I was 16, just to focus full time on the Outfitters. So I came here at 17 as low man on the totem pole. The chief dishwasher, at hot scrubber, at floor sweeper. And I had to work my way up too, so it's been 43 years.
How many boats did you load the other day?
I'd say on average it's about 60 to 100 boats in a day. So
If you think back of the clients or customers, I would say, have they changed through the years?
We've seen all these new Canadians are now, who know this is in their backyard, they're going canoe tripping for the first time. So it's really, really neat to see that happen, and for these people to know what's in their backyard and to go out and try this.
Are there any of these stories, like especially around the kitchen table, like when he's complaining about loading 60 boats, you're like, hey man, like you got lightweight boats now.
No, it's so
when I was,
yeah.
they're not those cedar strip boats anymore. Now you got the featherweights.
We still rent cedar canvas canoes for those people who want a special occasion canoe. So that's what we originally started with. A number of chestnut cedar canvas canoes from Fredericton, New Brunswick, and some aluminum canoes from Drummond, from Marathon, New York. And that's what we started our fleet with.
and your brother is Bill.
My brother is Bill Swift.
It's just a big happy family.
And it was really interesting when we were growing up. We said, oh, we're doing this canoe trip. Why don't we make canoes? So at the time we went in partnership and we started Sawyer Canada. And we sort of manufactured our own canoes. And it started getting quite involved. So, I decided to go work with my father, become a partner. And Bill took on the Swift Canoe on its own separate journey. And it's made just a phenomenal company, and those canoes are really the heart and soul of what we rent out here.
If I was to put a time capsule in the earth right in front of me for your 60th, and we're going to open it up 40 years later for the 100th, he'd be around. I think you and I would be somewhere else. But, well, you probably, I don't know why I'm even going there.
Kevin, I'm older than you.
Are you really? Yeah. Good Lord, man. You're looking great.
You're looking great,
Oh,
too,
you're-
Kevin. Oh, God.
You're a very sexy man. So yeah, the time capsule. Start with you. What would you put that in? So someone 40 years from now, during the 100th anniversary of Algonquin Outfitters, would see.
You know, we actually talked about this a little bit too. We thought we'd grab some of the articles that we've about the company and how it's grown over the years, and I think also eclipsing, you know, a map of how the park has transitioned in these different time periods too, and keeping that all together, it would be really a fascinating piece. Then you can look, you know, down the road of where the company has, you know, been and where the park has been and how it's grown.
60 years is a long time, and 100 years. Imagine what that map would look like. So what would you put in this time capsule?
Yeah, I think as we discussed here, I think one thing that would mean a lot to myself would be the most recent article that came up about the 3 different generations, and it'd be really cool to look at it, and hopefully by then there'll be 4 different generations, and continue to grow this business as long as we can.
So what's the thing that you wouldn't change?
Absolutely, it'd be the traditional roots that have been implemented from day one within the business. As you can see the store here in Oxtongue Lake, everything is relatively stayed the same, and it's about, you know, 50 years ago people coming here, and 50 years from now it's all going to be a very similar experience, and that's what we strive to do here.
That's fantastic. Now, what would you suggest to him that should change?
It should change. Well, I think, well, that's a tough question, but I really think that we really need to, you know, work harder on educating people about the ethics of canoe tripping, and how to canoe trip and how to do it properly. You know, I think more of those type of programs as you know, the canoeist market changes, so people have respect for the outdoors and they know what they're doing and they can do it safely.
That is awesome. It was good meeting both of you together, actually. Yeah, it was fantastic, and you know, the idea of you working together, not a lot of families can do that. So
no, it's a tough thing, and if you look at the odds of the success rate, it's not great. But you know, I worked with my father and I, you know, so.
And I see that you're as boisterous as your dad was.
I'm not quite as boisterous.
I got a lot to live up to here, eh?
My dad was a very unique character, you know, and I could never steal his limelight, believe me.
Oh, so, not that you're not boisterous, whatever, but nothing like your father.
You know, he would call a spade, you know, and people loved him for the way he was. You know, he was a true character.
I think one of the coolest things for myself about my grandfather is he did die in 1999, so I was quite young at the time, but one very fond memory that I have was always coming into the store here in Oxtongue Lake and going up to his office, and he had a drawer of his Mr. Big bars. And that collection, even though we had a couple a day, it always seemed to stay the same amount of Mr. Bigs in there. And but also a really cool experience with my grandfather is also hearing the different stories. You know, I'll go to an access point to deliver boats, and it's really cool the people that you run into and the people that knew my grandfather quite well and always would, you know, tell me a different story or two, and it's really, really cool and unique to hear all those stories.
That's fantastic. This is so great. I'm so glad I talked to you guys.
Excellent, Kevin. Well, thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Kevin.
All right.